golf geek festival known as Swing Thoughts is officially underway. O'Connor's got a cold. This is my older brother here. Whatever you say, don't say he's a psychologist. He is trained as a psychologist. Okay? He's going to be our guest today for a bit. He's a very bright man, and he looks very nice in his golf shirt. Even though, Tim, it's not a JW Apparel Inc. official shirt, he is welcome on Swing Thoughts.
Totally, I do. But I think, is that one of your hand-me-downs from a previous
from a previous sponsor? Yeah, he's staying in my spare room, which is like where the girls used to stay. So it's a weird combination in that closet, right? It's like some girls' clothes, my winter clothes, and then 10 old golf shirts. Well, you can just go in there and, pick and choose, mix and match. Talk into this thing.
It's my annual shopping trip, Tim.
Like really, really close.
I've been doing this for years. Every summer I come to Toronto, pick out shirts, go home, and people say, you have new shirts.
Okay, I'm begging you. I'm begging you.
I'm talking into the
Jesus.
microphone.
I'm just...
So now we're going to get into brother dynamics.
I don't know how many
it's
times
going
I
to be,
have to
Mom
tell
liked you
people."
better.
No, she did.
But if I do this, I look like Beaker from the
No,
Muppets.
if you do this, no one can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly an audio thing, Dave.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I have my nose up against the glass now.
That's it. That's
That's
exactly
it.
how
Yeah, and if you get a little abrasion on your nose, that means you're doing it well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you, too. Okay, well, we're going to introduce him officially in a second. So just now you can relax, but when you do talk, you have to talk really close.
Fair enough.
Okay. And I always loved you more than the other guy. And then, well, because he used to beat me up. Not Dave, the other guy. The other brother used to beat me up because he was 4 years older than me, and David is 8 years older than me. And David used to come to my rescue. So, I mean...
Oh, yeah. Hey, I got that dynamic in my house. My brother Sean, 7 years difference. Brother Pat, 4. So he often felt my wrath.
So here's what happened is that David, who, as I mentioned, even though he looks exactly the same age as me, because he looks great, is 8 years older. So what happened was in my childhood, my brother Stephen would beat me up not only all over my house, but all over the neighborhood. He would do this thing where he would give me a head start because I would chirp him, I'd say something, and then I would run out of the house, and then he would chase me onto a neighbor's lawn and then just beat the shit out of me. And then David would come in and say, "Come on, Stephen," and David would be like, my savior. And then David left home. Like it was almost like being in prison. And my prison security left, prison buddy left, and the other guy was like, "All right, pal, it's just you and me now, just you and me now, baby Howie." Anyway, welcome to the show, kids. Brought to you by JW Apparel Inc. Tim's wearing some of that stuff. I've got it on. I have this one thing I wear now for every Swing Thoughts. JWApparelinc.com. Is that a beach ratty or a zero restrictions? This is zero restriction.
This is a fairway in green.
Nice. These clothes look good on you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. They fall nicely at the shoulder. The seam is right at the shoulder, properly fit. And they nicely fall just short of the elbow. Not unlike remember the Ashworth stuff. People have like
the
short,
Freddie Couple stuff. Yeah.
Short sleeves that go like halfway down your forearm.
Like long short sleeves. It's funny when you see like Freddie. I used to love that look, that Ashworth look, and the baggy pants with the pleats. Now it's like, why are those clowns playing golf in the old days?
Exactly.
Anyway, so Fairway and Green, zero restriction, Beat Ratty, EPNY, Garb, Royal Albatross, BPRG Golf, all available at jwapparelinc.com. And of course, our title sponsor, TaylorMade Golf. Good Lord. We're going to talk a little bit about Morikawa, but how good for them, how good for us. Morikawa winning, full TaylorMade through the bag. And you want to talk about hand-me-downs? You've got my old like Sim generation, or which drivers do you have now?
I actually have my own Sim.
You went out and got a Sim.
I bought a Sim.
He bought it with money. Tim
bought
money. Yeah.
That's right.
I'm gonna have a spasm.
I have your old irons.
But David not only has my old like their TP version irons, but he went out and got and used money. Tim, I know that's a foreign thing to us. Look at Tim's face.
Yeah.
What? You pay for golf stuff? Some people do.
That's against the Golf Writer code.
What did you got a sim?
I have a sim driver. I have a sim 22 degree.
Right.
I have ordered a full set pitching wedge to 5 of new irons.
New irons from TaylorMade.
R something or other.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So there you go. TaylorMade Golf. What can we tell you? If you did one thing for your golf game this summer, visit TaylorMadeGolf.ca and learn about all the new Sim 2 irons, the drivers, the hybrids. The hybrid, I know it's all legal, but my 19-degree hybrid goes way farther. You know, we were talking about this the other day, Timmy, about what kind of difference does each generation of TaylorMade, does it make a big difference? And I would say this leap, whatever the leap was from last year to this year, it's made a big difference in terms of the way the club work, the way the ball comes off the face of the club, etc. So go check it out at TaylorMadeGolf.ca.
No, I my Sim 2 Max is just pow. I was playing in a charity event on earlier this week. Drove a par 4. Yeah, no, it was 300.
Wait a second, you drove your cart to the. What did you do?
I took the short route over the trees. No, it was funny. I just busted this drive over the trees, short par 4, and I got to tell you, so everyone's hit their balls. I walk up towards the green. No one's there. Could it be? Could it be? Could it be? Yes.
And your ball was on the green.
Yeah, we had a 40-foot putt for eagle.
Well, good for you.
So that was
fun. You know what? Because you do so much for so many people.
I'm glad you share in my joy.
I do.
Because you don't want to. Because there's a tendency you might want to mock it, but I just love the fact that you have the dignity not to mock it.
Not mocking it at all. Listen, I've seen. What did I say to you yesterday about O'Connor? I said, this guy, when he sets up
ball, yeah.
I said, he can golf his goddamn ball. When he sets up over the ball, he just looks like somebody that's just going to hit good shots. When you find out that he has TaylorMade clubs, you know it, okay? All right. O'ConnorGolf.ca, HumbleandFredRadio.com. We'll just get that out of the way. And, of course, that's O'Connor. I'm a golf spiritual leader. And there's a lot to catch up on. My older brother's here because even though he's not, what is it? You are not a psychologist, but you are trained as a psychologist.
I have a master's degree in psychology, and
That's
I've
what
been
I wanna
working
hear.
as an organizational consultant for a whole career.
Right. And I got to grade 11. So that's why I'm doing this. And he's a smart guy. So, but David is also an avid golfer and he's an avid listener of our show. And Tim and I thought it would be good to have, because Dave's in town visiting, him and his lady friend are visiting family. We've played some golf already. We're going to play again today. And if anyone represents sort of the geek golf, Humble and Tim nation, Swing Thoughts nation, it's David. He's wants to get better and finds the game frustrating, as we all do. And I thought it would be interesting, Timmy, to have a conversation with a guy that listens to our show, but also has a real passion for the game. And even though you have made many, many notes, I would throw it to Mr. O'Connor, who is a performance coach in his own right, to maybe start and see what would you say? Like, how does the game show up for you? How, what are the things you find frustrating? Tim, maybe you start.
Well, I think you already did.
Okay, all right.
What do you find frustrating? I mean, tell me first. Let's start on a positive note. What do you like about golf? Be brief, because we probably heard it before, and then get into what frustrates you.
Yeah, what do you like? But make it short, because we've got other shit to talk about.
Look, I'll give you a biographical. Let me start. I was born in,
in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, post World War II.
So here's my golf biography. I've never, up until the last 2 years, I've never been a member, other than a business member once 25 years ago for a couple of years. I've never really belonged to a golf club. But I've always been avid. You know Howard's golfing story. You know and you've had the golfing Glassmans on before, but I've never been a member anywhere. I've always been a sort of driving range guy, playing 10, 15 rounds a year at best. So I can swing the golf ball, but I've not played golf in a sense that I've been playing the last couple of years. And I'm a big fan of both of what you're doing. So it's been very interesting being here this week. Howard and I just spent 4 hours at Rattlesnake.
I took David to the Pathways to Par golf school, golf academy yesterday, and I ran him through a 4-hour deep dive into some swing golf stuff, and well, I really loved it. I'll tell you, Timmy, he swings the club nicely too. He's like a lot of guys. Your handicap is 16.
Yeah,
he's like a lot of guys. When you see him, you think, "Oh, that guy, he swings it like he could be a single-digit player, like a 9 or a 10 easily, because he moves the golf ball through the air." Like there was a couple shots yesterday, and we just worked on a couple small mechanical things, and right away he was hitting it better. He hit this 5-iron. It was like 190 yards. Like he moves it through the air so he can hit it. But like a lot of guys at that handicap, between 10 and 18, there's just a lot of strokes in a round that just go, missing, because the strategy gamey part kind of eludes him a little bit. So
right. I mean, I've heard you guys talk about, but I think it's finally coming through my thick golf brain that playing the game of golf can't be reduced to how you swing the club. Right? It's a little bit like motor racing and an engine. An engine's kind of necessary to get the car around, but you can't understand a motor race just by the engine. It's not reducible to that. And that's finally coming back to me. And I look at the rounds I've been playing at my home course. I play at Canyon Meadows in Calgary, where I make the same mistakes on the same holes. You guys talk about when you get into trouble, don't make it worse. And I realize my round is composed of more of, well, I'll fix that one in the trees by going over more trees. So I've been learning that. So I've been learning, so I'm on a journey to both get better coaching, have a better mechanical game. And, we found some things that are eminently fixable. But the things I can fix right now and I'm committed to is I've just decided I want to be a better golfer, which means committing that I want to shoot lower scores. I have always thought that shooting lower scores was just getting my golf swing better. And that's coming clear.
Well, I told David about how I said, when Tim O'Connor, I said, when you start working with a golfer, one of the first things you ask them is to explain or write down or ruminate on why you play golf. And I said, the problem with most golfers is they don't know. They think they're playing golf for some reasons. And I said, until you make a stand for some, I play golf because I like to be outside, and that's great. But I said, most people want to shoot lower scores. They just don't like to say it. But I say, once you make a stand that I'm a 16 and I want to be a 12, then every time you're in the trees, you're going to go, well, what was it to be a 12? I've got to get this back and play and make a bogey. I want to just bring up a quick story before I forget it. So we played Blue Springs the other day, Timmy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And we get to the 10th hole. We've talked about that hole on this show many, many times. And I didn't want to tell him too much because, again, he can move the ball fine. He hits it fine. And so we were trying not to oversell. There's trouble on the right. There's death on the left. This is one of the hardest holes, etc. So make a long story short, it's a 410. It plays shorter, but the second shot that David had, or the third shot after he found his ball and chipped out. So he's hitting 3. And I look over, he's like almost 200 yards from that green, in the middle of the fairway though. But he's 200 yards from the green. There's a hazard to the right. There's garbage to the left, and over is dead. And he's got his hybrid out. And I say, what are you doing there, fella? He goes, I'm going to hit a hybrid.
I'm on a downhill lie.
Oh, yeah, downhill lie.
Yeah.
To an uphill green.
With water in front. With water in front, death left, death right, actually.
Right. And bad stuff right. And there's me and David's girlfriend, who's a very good player, and Paul Henrik, former tour player and my coach. So we're all. I look over at David. I go, "What are you doing?" He's not. He's a hybrid. I said, "Okay, that's great. It's a good choice." I said, "If you want to make 8."
Yeah.
I said, "Stop right now." I said, let me ask you a question. Do you want to make 6 or do you want to make 8? Because if you want to be at 12, you got to make 6. And that's as simple. And then he put the hybrid away. He laid up on that hole, which was a smart thing to do. And then he got on in 4, 2-putted for 6. And that, in a nutshell, that's a microcosm of every 16 handicap round. But if you say, I want to shoot lower scores, then in that situation, without me being there, you're going to have to, and this is for everyone, not just you have to say to yourself, what is it I stand for? Because on the way home, you're going to know, yeah, I hit the hybrid. I fucking made a quad. Didn't need to. I could have hit 2 wedges and made, because every time you do that, that quadruple bogey that makes you shoot 91, just is not necessary. And again, as we've said on the show a million times, nothing to do with your golf swing.
No, totally.
So from a training, from a master's in psychology, I know I'm curious about some of the notes you made. Like, what are some of your thoughts about how people play games in general and what you see about the game of golf as a psychologist? Even though I'm not, I'm not supposed to say psychologist.
You can say psychologist.
All right.
You have to narrow the question. Tim,
well, no, what's on this page? Tell me some of these things.
I hate my brother. That's you. No,
it's fine.
No, I was just noting what I love about golf and why I think golf is unique, but I don't think.
Yeah, I like that question.
Well, we've been talking.
But hate's a strong word, by the way.
No, I
from
love
somebody
you.
wearing
I
one of
love
my
you.
from somebody wearing one of my shirts.
Yeah, I'll take it off. You wouldn't want to see that. We've been talking golf nonstop for 2 days. And one of the things we talked about is, I haven't been a member really ever until this last few years, but I've always loved golf, right? And what I realize about golf is that golf is this fraternity that you can participate in at whatever level. And we were saying, I couldn't sit around. I played basketball a little bit in my youth, but I don't think I have much in common with Michael Jordan. Right. I couldn't get on the court with Michael Jordan. We couldn't play together. He just, keep stuffing the basketball. But I'm pretty sure I would have something to say to Tiger Woods if he would talk to me. Right. And what, we were watching golf yesterday, and I'm watching, one of the tour players, make a bad choice to a par 3 green, right-handed pin,
Short-sighted
himself. And now I go, yeah, I understand that. I have the same sort of choice I can make. So what I love about golf is it's this fraternity that you get to be part of. It's a culture. It's a world.
And I like what he was saying. Like, we could ostensibly, because of the way golf is played, get on the course with Tiger. We could have a foursome, the 4 of us, or 3 of us and Tiger Woods, and he could give us all our shots, and we could have an actual game. And there's this language we share, and the frustrations of a 16 are the same as they are of a +6.
Well, just playing with, we played, the other day with Paul, Howard, Ruth, my partner, and me. We're all slightly different handicaps, and we're all on the course together.
Right.
Totally.
Right? It's, that's the beauty of golf. So to be part of golf, look, I have friends. I have a friend who he can barely, get out of bed. He's not in good shape health-wise. But he loves talking golf. I talk to him on, Sunday evening after whatever PGA Tour event is, and we can participate as part of this golf fraternity. So for me, it's been it's an interesting journey. I've always thought of myself as a golfer, although I've never really gotten around to thinking about I want to shoot lower scores. The other thing, before I joined a club, I used to think I scored much lower than I did. I used to tell people that, well, I'm about a 10 or 11 or a 12 handicap because, occasionally I have shot 81, 82, 80. I think I broke 80 once. And so, I've been telling this BS for a long time, but, if you count every stroke, that's a different game as well. So
Tim, any questions for
Well, one of the things
psychologist, David Glassman?
Well, one of the things that's really interesting to me about golf is that you see people as they actually are. You kind of, I know it's an image we don't want to play with, but you're kind of naked out there. You really are who you are, the way your personality is, your skill level. One of the things that Howard said to me earlier this year, and it's really come to fruition in a bunch of matches that I've played, net matches, is that your handicap always shows up.
mm-hmm.
And so that has a lot to say about people in terms of their, their devotion to the game. Because you can't be a single or very low digit player unless you've invested a lot of time in this game and you've worked at it for years. I played in this charity event on Tuesday, and one of the guys, he seemed like, I'm hitting these shots, and he said, well, you have the knowledge of how to do it. And I said, yeah, I have the knowledge, but I also have a ton of experience doing it over and over and over again. And so there's that part of it. And there's that part also, how well do you accept and deal with adversity? Do you slam clubs and call names and all that kind of stuff? So it's just such a wonderful game, but it's exceedingly humbling. Yes. Because we have to accept who we are.
It's interesting you say that. Just to juxtapose and tie together there's that old saying, I didn't invent it, that eventually in every round of golf, everyone's handicap shows up. But to just sort of echo what you were saying about personalities in golf, eventually your personality will show up. I mean, you can fake it for a few holes. You can pretend that you're not angry, but eventually the game wears us down to the point that we are exposed. I said this a couple of years ago. I used to think that golf created character, but actually golf exposes character.
Reveals, for sure.
Reveals it. But we're going to do about 10 more minutes with David before we go on to, there's some stuff we want to talk about, a little bit of Morikawa stuff, a little bit about Tim's recent Mid-Am qualifier, and I want to acknowledge that my partner has added a super senior club champion to his. I mean, you're really, David, you're on. This is the show of champions. You're with some champions here, so it's just easy now. Okay. But so you love golf, and I want to kind of get to some of the things that are a benefit for a typical average golfer, which you're an above average golf ball hitter. And I was telling David too, Timmy, I've had this. This has happened a bunch of times recently when I say to somebody, hey, how you playing? Or how's your game? And they always answer with how they're swinging. Yeah. I'm like, no, I didn't ask you how your golf swing was. But isn't that interesting that 99 golfers out of 100, when you ask them how they're playing, they always answer with something they're working on their backswing. But that aside, what do you think holds you back as a 16 handicapper? Because it's not your golf swing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what we were starting to talk about, here's, part of being here is my golf transformation. So the things I have seen holding me back, holds everybody back, is I see to get better, a few things have to happen. One is I have to commit to play better golf, not swing better. That's helpful. But I've now decided that I want to be a better golfer. And I need to prepare to play golf, not just swing. So, Tim said, one of the things that, you practice. I think a lot of people don't actually do proper practice. They think, well, if I try too hard, that's somehow not right. So there's this conceit about, I see Howard warming up to play golf. It's quite a phenomena. He does a lot of off the range exercises. And we were talking about that. A lot of people don't do it because this is a psychological talk, is that they have a conceit that if they try too hard, well, that's just not right.
Well, and they're self-conscious about it.
And they're self-conscious. So you have to commit to get better. That's really number one. You have to decide, I've decided that I need to commit to play golf, not just go to the range and swing. And I love to swing. And we talked about this the other day. It's great to go to the range, put on headphones, and just swing for an hour. I couldn't think of a better form of meditation, but that's not playing golf. You know, the other things I'm learning about myself is, like anybody, I can be as pissy as anybody else on the planet when things aren't going well. So the other thing I'm learning to do is be more mature in the golf course. I play with my partner, I'd say 60% of my rounds. She's a lower handicap than me.
She's a very good player.
She's a really good player.
Aggravatingly so. Great putter too, by the way.
Yeah.
Very good putter. Aggravating putter.
Aggravating putter.
Sinks everything. It's aggravating.
Yes, we're both aggravated. But you know, we've had a few rounds where she says to me, "I don't want to play with you if you get this upset over some of your bad shots." And I'm going, okay. So I've actually committed to that, and I'm doing better. The other thing I've noticed is that I don't celebrate my good shots. She always points this out, as much as I'm glum over my bad shots.
Totally.
Yeah, which is again typical of most golfers.
And I think,
and I would say most
men,
guys.
Yeah,
and most guys.
I've golfed, you know, with guys where we've played in mixed groups, and the women we were playing with, you know, sink a putt, and they're, you know, yay.
No, I know.
And we're going, and they both said our partners kind of give us crap for not celebrating. So you know, my new sense of the game is, one is I want to be a better partner in playing golf. That's important. I've decided that if I'm going to get better as a, you know, to lower my handicap, because I don't really believe I'm a 16, although the scorecard says it, or my handicap does, I have to commit to a number. And practice with that in mind. I mean, I do a lot of organizational work where, and you know all of this stuff, Tim, is that you have to get people to commit to something and then work backwards from the commitment as opposed to from your story, your excuse. You know, I know this in other domains. I work with very large companies around culture and industrial safety kinds of issues. You know, I am on a project that has worked, get this, 14 million man hours, and we haven't sent anybody home, right? So I understand the power of commitment.
Yes.
And I'm trying to now bring that to my golf game.
And that's interesting. And that's a great takeaway, by the way, nerds that are listening, that you know, it's one of the things, and I'm not going to mention you know what just yet, but I will be. If you're playing the decade drinking game,
wait a minute, you just
it's coming. No, I'm talking about in the context of instruction. But yes, okay. I did technically say, all right, there we go. But that part of the idea is what David's saying is making the commitment is actually pretty easy. Saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Doing it, the discipline to continue to find ways on every hole, even if you're pissed off, to find ways to make the lowest score on that hole, even if that lowest score is 6 instead of 8. Because I know, you know, Timmy, we've mentioned this many times in 6 years, that, you know, I've had lots of rounds in tournaments. I made a 9 in a tournament where I made the cut. And you know, the old joke, how'd you make 9? Well, I missed the putt for 8. But on that day, I remember it, I was trying to make the putt for 8. And that is the secret sauce, is in yes, it's a drag making a quad or a triple bogey or hitting it out of bounds. But you know, I said this to Dave the other day. It's funny when I watch people putt long putts. We were just doing this little drill yesterday. When you have a 60 or a 50 or a 45-foot putt, oftentimes if you don't make a good first putt, you're 4 or 5 or 6 feet short. Just watch what people do. They rush that putt, that second putt, and I said to him, that putt's as important as the putt for the first one and the drive. But by making a bit of a pout and thinking, oh, I screwed up, we 3-putt a lot of those 4, 5, and 6 footers because we're really not giving them the attention that they warrant. Mm-hmm. The point being that if you want to be a better golf scorer, golf player, then you have to be committed that when things go wrong, you're going to try and make them minimize the damage as possible.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've been talking about, I did a playing lesson last night with a client, which is So enjoyable. He's playing, I'm walking, we're talking about his experience. It's really fun. And we're talking about how players get caught in a story. And that something happens and they go, well, here it goes. My game always goes into the dumper and I'm this and I'm, dad was right. I'm a complete spaz or whatever. And that it's understanding that that's all story. Because it really is. It's at its most basic, golf is you hit a bunch of shots, and at the end you add the numbers, and that's it.
Yeah.
But for sake of when golfers start hitting some bad shots and they start to mope and to get caught in a story, they're caught in a story. But if you've made a commitment that you're going to be a better golfer, one of those things is do not get caught up in this story. And to realize that bad things are going to happen, what I learned from that, and take it forward. Because if you take the emotion, if you get caught up in the story and the attendant emotion, well, what do you think happens the next time you're in the same situation? That same emotion comes up again. So it's always like, oh, okay, oh yeah, I could get all pissed off and mopey and pissy and all that. Well, because I'm a mature human being now, I've ascended that, putting that aside, because I'm a golfer. And because if I allow myself to go into the story and the emotions, I'm going to play the same shitty golf I always have.
Well, you can either revert to your story or you can revert to your commitment. Like when something happens, it's either evidence that life is shit and you'll never get better, whatever the domain is, or this is just the way things are. Or when something happens, you say the real gap is, okay, my commitment is to be a 10 or whatever. I haven't picked a number yet or scratch or whatever, but the gap should be against your commitment, not against your story. That propels you forward.
Right.
And the problem is because it's an emotional game and because, as we've said, it reveals your character and how you react to, as Timmy's example, there's a big lineup at Tim Hortons I was saying, we were coming home in traffic yesterday from Rattlesnake, and 3 different times on the QEW, traffic came to a complete stop. And I said, I've lived here 32 years. It's insane to think that every time it happens, you get mad. Well, I used to, but now I have this idea that, things are going to screw up. One of the, last weekend when Morikawa was winning the Open, I only tweet in this golf universe, but and when we're sort of wrapping up with David, I'm gonna read this thing to you. The point I'm trying to make is this: you're gonna have like that great quote from Dustin Johnson. I hit terrible shots every day, so why would I get mad at them? That would be stupid. And we read that on this show a few months ago, and I thought that's just so simplistic but brilliant. There's no surprise in golf. In fact, the surprise is when you don't hit a bad shot.
That's right.
One of those things that, whether it was Hogan or somebody said it, but I only hit 7 or 8 good shots a round. And what that means is in any given round of golf, as I mentioned to you when I shot under par a few times recently, is those rounds also included a couple smother hooks, a few blocks to the right. But they also included 4 or 5 really good shots. Mostly they were just okay. We played Blue Springs the other day. I shot like 1 over par. I didn't even play amazing, but I made 14 or 15 just sort of dopey on the fairway somewhere on the green, 30 feet, 2 putted, moved on. It wasn't extravagant or it wasn't anything special is my point. What I didn't do, and I said to David at the end of the round, what you may have noticed is I was never in any danger of making anything worse than a bogey. Because the one time I got into trouble, I was like, in trouble where I have to pitch out, I didn't look through the trees. I just went, okay, where's the fairway now? If you can just, if you're a higher handicap player, if you can sort of keep your damage down to doubles, and in our case, bogeys and no worse than that, golf scoring really isn't much more than not making a bunch of big numbers. I don't know how else to say it. So in our final few moments with David Glassman, Master of Psychology. Please comment,
I have very little to say. I think as a psychologist to golf, although it's as a human being, just another observation of Howard, which is part of intentionality. When we were warming up at the range yesterday, the back of the range at Rattlesnake, which is a whole experience.
It was Casey was back there, all the ping guys. It was pretty good, actually.
Yeah. So I get out, the range is wet. Howard's doing his stretching.
It took me 20 minutes before I hit a ball.
And I'm out immediately hitting, so the wet turf is catching my wedge, and I'm making these huge, deep, horrible.
It's like he was planting a crop.
I was planting a crop. It got better. But at some point he says, what was your line? When are you going to actually hit a shot that you intend to hit?
Yeah, he's just hitting balls.
Right. So I think what for me the lesson is about intentionality. It's the intentionality of deciding, how good do I want to be in terms of a golf scorer, and that melts down or is holographic to when I'm on the range, I should be hitting each shot with intention, and that's for me been the lesson of this week.
Well, even when we warmed up the first day at Blue Springs, again, there's a bunch of guys on the range. Some of the guys I knew, and then David and his partner Ruth, and I said, listen, I'm going to do a shorter version of this, what I normally do, and I'm still 10 or 12 minutes before I touch a golf club. Because as I've said to you, Timmy, over the months of this year, I've really committed to making sure before I start swinging that my muscles are ready. Because that's just what I've committed to. And it's embarrassing. Not embarrassing is the wrong word. I don't care. But sometimes when I get down on the towel and I'm doing some stuff and I'm like, I know the guys, think, again, maybe I'm trying too hard, or who does he think he is, or whatever, but I don't care.
Yeah. So you do that, and every time, even when I was doing that drill, holding your head,
right,
you were pointing out that even just practicing not moving your head, with Sean giving some drill, he's lining up each shot with an intentional target. So for me, it's been all about intention.
Okay. Well, listen.
That's cool. I just wanted to make one quick point.
And then I'm just going to ask, did you get to all your notes?
I got to everything.
Okay, good. All right.
Good. Okay. Well, that's I was a big note guy when we first started this podcast, and I went, nah, just show up, let Howard steer the conversation, and it'll go where it needs to go. Yeah. But I was talking with a client yesterday, and he has the same issue that so many golfers have. Let's say they're struggling with their chipping, and they'll go to the practice screen, and they might, because they're golf nerds, they'll practice for like 2 hours, and they'll have a great session, and they'll cozy the ball up, and they'll chip in, and everything's good. And then they go to the golf course, and the first green they miss, they have a chip shot, and they scull it or chunk it. And they're like, what is going on? I practiced for 2 effing hours. And so what I'm doing is connecting to this intentionality. So when we practice or warm up, we need to be still making our range time, whatever, practice time, like it is on the course. We have this intention for a certain shot that's going to be a certain shape, a certain distance to a certain target. And if we don't hit it there, so that kind of what went on, it doesn't mean we need to do this diagnosis of our swing, but that to me is the key piece, is that intention to hit a certain shot, or as one of our friends says, solve the puzzle that's in front of us, because that's the game. Yeah. It's just not willy-nilly hitting shots or working on some kind of releasey thing.
Without intention, there can be no feedback.
Yeah. And that's what I said to you. So we're about to leave the range at Blue Springs. I eventually got to hit a few balls. But as I said to David, the difference, the way I warm up is from the first ball I hit, the very minimum I had, besides making sure my grip was right and all the other things I try and make sure of before I hit, I went, okay, well, I'm going to hit these first 7 or 8 wedges to that green there.
Yep.
So I'm watching you warm up. David's warming up, just randomly hitting shots. And I said, hey, before you leave the range, why don't you try and hit this ball somewhere? I said, because about 10 minutes from now, you're going to be trying to hit it somewhere. You're going to have an intention, today's word of the day. You're going to want to move it towards something. So, and we're not picking on you, but you're typical of most golfers, the way they go about their game, which is kind of randomly hoping that this amalgam of habits they've formed will somehow bring a lower score.
Yeah.
Well, if I may,
no offense taken. My last word, and I'll get out of here. It strikes me that when we talk about coaching relationships, I realize that as Howard or you can say whatever you want. I don't take it badly, because I realize my commitment to get better welcomes negative feedback.
Well, it's not negative feedback. What were you going to, about feedback?
Yeah.
You're very good about that. What were you
What I'm
saying?
going to say is that what a lot of golfers do is they get on the range and they're trying to find, say, a swing feel or a thought for the day, or they're trying to cure what was going wrong from the day before, or these problems in their swing. So in essence, they're internally focused. They're trying to move body parts or smoothly or in a certain way. And what golf really is connecting to some kind of target, sending this little white ball to some place. If you don't have that part of the equation, you're not playing golf.
Right.
That is not golf. Golf is based on the intention to get a certain result, that this ball is going to land on this part of the green and then it's going to roll to the hole or whatever.
Right.
If you don't have that external equation or the environment as part of the deal, you're playing golf with one or two hands behind your back.
Well, and so many things I remember hearing through the years, or people would tell me, warm up, maybe before you leave, play the first hole you're going to play, and all these things. And I would hear them, I'd say, hear the information and not really synthesize why. But, more and more over the last 3 or 4 years, especially since you and I did the seminar, the decade seminar. Since we did the seminar, it changed a lot of the way I play the game. But the last, this spring into summer, the commitment that I made to doing what they told me to do, pretty religiously, speaking of that, is it's lowered my handicap without getting much better at golf ball hitting. I'm a little better, but not much. Yeah, I will tell you that having a plan and a strategy has made my golf swing better, because I know now I'm not trying to hit it to that pin. I'm trying to hit it over there. And oh, wait a second, I pull hooked it next to the hole. Okay, David Glassman, thank you very much.
Tim, nice seeing you.
I thought
Good
you
to
did
see
great.
you, David, again. Really enjoyed the chat. You're looking resplendent in that.
Thank you.
In that polo
maybe we'll
from a
get to
rival
play
apparel
blue.
maker.
Thank you. Maybe next year we'll get to play Blue Springs together.
That would be lovely. We'll have to
golf
do
course
something
is
weird,
tough,
and according to my wife, it's something weird for me. It would be plan something.
No, you're
Okay.
fine. Thank you, David.
I got the
David
same one.
Glassman.
See you guys.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome to hang in the green room. If you're just gonna get into some other.
You have a green room? You have a green room?
I got a place over there.
Oh, it's just the couch that's on the other side of
Can
the
you do me a
room.
favor now? Just bring back the gain about 5%, because whatever you did that turned it up. Now it's distorting just a slight bit.
Alrighty.
Thank you, pal.
I'm messing.
I made a par there on 10 at Blue Springs, and I was thrilled. And
that's
here's
a
the
great
thing.
score.
I hit 3 wood off the tee, hit it in the rough, and I had an 8 iron length. I was like 155 to the green, and I said to Paul, I said, I think I can get there. And this is the way I was thinking. I said to him, I think I can get there with this, but I sort of paused and went, the problem is if you make a slight mistake short of that green, now you're making double.
Totally.
I'm hitting 2 in there, 4 on, maybe but more likely a double. So I took extra club and I happened to hit it really well. But the mistake I made the ball go over the green. Not a lot, by the way. And I got up and down. I made a nice par.
Nice.
But the point of that strategy in the Pathways to Par seminar, there's skill, there's strength. Don't laugh. Here's the thing. I'm coming after you, O'Connor. So there's skill, there's strategy, and scoring, and that was strategy. Now my skill allowed me to hit a good shot, but I'll tell you a funny thing. That 8 iron, even at my level, I say that, whatever.
You're a scratch player. You can say it.
So even at my level, that 8 iron in that particular situation would have brought my temperature up a bit. I would have been a little bit, I better hit this good, because the mistake is going to screw me. But the 7 iron, because I'm like, I got plenty of club. This is absolutely not, even if I miss hit it, it's going to get there. So that gives you the freedom to swing it with more freedom. And that's why I say the strategy around this system brings that to It makes you actually, it's the layup on a par 5 swing.
Yeah.
When you know that you have a club in your hand that feels, it relaxes you internally, like having David not hit hybrid to that green. Because I'll tell you what, where he was, Tim, I'm not saying you and I would lay up, but I'd think about it. Off that lie he had, I would definitely give it a thought. I'd think, okay, how badly do I want to make a par here versus a double from where he was? And you know, there's something to be said for that as a strategy from time to time.
Oh yeah, well on number 10 there, it's just death everywhere. If I don't,
It is. It's a tough shot.
There's a metaphor in there somewhere. But anyways, unless I have around a 7-iron or less with a relatively nice lie, I'm laying up. And because as I was talking to a player last night, and again, this is through GSL coaching, you're not, if you make a bogey on a hole like 10 or 8 or even 2 at Blue Springs, you're not giving up a shot to the field at all.
Especially at the amateur level, by the way.
Totally. You're just not.
Though for amateurs on those holes, and this applies, by the way, nerds, to all your hard holes on your course. The amateur strokes gained on those is bogey. Neutral. I'm sorry, strokes gained neutral would be bogey, probably even more. Number 10, number 6 at Leithfield, Glencairn, etc. I stopped short of saying to David, I might have even said this hole is a good bogey. It's a really good 5.
Yeah, well, yesterday I had a client. This guy's about a 2 handicap, and I said, we got on number 2 here, and I said, if you make a bogey here, that's great.
Yeah, well done,
because it is a difficult hole, and he kind of like didn't really get it, and then he got it, just because you're just not giving up anything to the field because there's just so much that can go wrong. But
this, I want to get into the season of champions. But first, I just want to, before we leave that is exactly what E for expectations is all about.
Yep.
If you're standing on a 200-yard par 3 and you get frustrated, first of all, you've got a longer club than you're comfortable with. It's a tough hole because the yardage is extreme. Like I think it's the 11th hole at Weston. When I play the Willie Park there and I'm playing with the kids, it's 230 yards for me. Mm-hmm. I could get my hybrid, but I always play it like this. I'm going to play it. The front of the green yardage is about 195, 200. I'll hit my 4-iron up there because if my hybrid goes wrong, I'm in trouble there. My point being that knowing that having the expectation that bogey's a not bad score, it just keeps your thermostat in check.
Totally.
So then you go to 3 and you hit a nice couple of shots. It's an easy hole. You got a couple of holes there to breathe. And anyways, I will say one thing before leaving Blue Springs. The greens were the slowest I've ever played them there.
Yeah, what day did you play?
Wednesday.
Yeah, I played the same day. And I played at 4. And I meant to ask.
We were still there, by the way. We teed off at 12. I guess we were just leaving the course around 4:30. Oh
yeah, well yeah, we just teed off at 4, but yeah, they were slow. I don't know why. I have a sense it was
much of the rain.
Well, I think it was the rain, and also that. I mean, this right now is ideal bent grass growing conditions. So warm during the day, cool at night, a good amount of rain, mix of sunshine and overcast. It's perfect. So the grass is growing so fast you can hear it.
Yeah.
So I have a sense that it was, they seemed a little slow that day, but the greens have been amazing. And I played yesterday, teed off at 6, and the greens were great.
All right, well, let's get to it. Tim O'Connor, 2021 Super Senior Club Champion, Blue Springs.
I wish I had a hat on, I would tip it.
Any questions? Hashtag suck it, says Tim. So I want you to tell me 2 stories in our remaining 20 minutes or so. Give me the, give me the 411. Give me the top line. Give me your takeaways from the Super Senior club champ win, and then you said, "Can we talk?" You sent me a note. Can we talk about the Mid-Am qualifier? I'm like, dude, talk about whatever you want.
Actually, I'm a little bit more. The Super Senior was very interesting. I just got to relate this. I played with this one fellow, and it's interesting because this comes on the heels of you winning your Senior Club C 3 out of the last 4 years.
I don't even remember. You know, what is it? It's stats. Statistics, Tim. I don't know. You know,
it's just
you win so much you forget. I started sounding like Jiminy Glick there. I don't know. I won. I didn't win. Did I win? Who knows?
What does win mean anyway?
What is winning? Is it? It's habitual. All right. So go ahead. Tell me about your stuff there, fella.
So I played with this one fellow who, I've only played with him actually in competition. And I remember 7 years or so ago, I played him in the gross match play. And I think the first word he said to me was on the 12th hole. Like it was something like shot.
Yeah, he's the Ben Hogan he's the Hawk of Blue Springs.
Yeah, and it was quite funny. I remember on number 7, I had 200 yards to the green, but I felt it was one of those things where like I felt good. It was just the ball was just perfect. A little bit of a launch pad lie. Hit a hybrid to 6 feet.
Ooh, nice.
Nothing. Like not a word.
Well,
from
he's
this
just
guy.
a dick then. I'm sorry, I don't care. He's just a
and
dick.
on 13, I hit it
to
on 13, I hit it to 8 feet and like nothing. And like I'm not looking for way to go, Timmy.
Just not be a dick.
And oh God, I remember when he came off the court last year, a guy played with this Irish guy. He says, John Mooney, I love the guy. He goes, you know, he's a nice player. He deserves to win, but he's not a country club player. You know what I'm saying? I might as well be playing by myself.
No, I know. And I
found that really interesting.
And I talked to you after that. I said, I get that because I do a lot of things that aren't country club player things, but at the very least, and thanks to you, I try and be at least a good partner, even if it's the GAO I'm playing in or the Canadian seniors. I'm going to say good shot. I just say it because it's the right. I was taught to say it. It's etiquette.
Oh, totally. It's part of the game.
And I'm not Ben Hogan, and neither is this douche. Anyway, you shot.
Anyways,
it was 79 in the first round. You sent me a note. You were leading, and I was like, "Yes, guy, go get him."
Yeah. Well, it was very interesting to me is that 42 on the front, and just a kind of a messy double, kind of some bad luck, bad decision, but. I just was a par machine on the back 9, and I was just playing really conservative golf in terms of just don't make a bunch of stupid mistakes because you're playing at Club C. Everyone shoots higher scores,
millions.
So it's nice.
I'm going to circle back to that comment later in this show about how people's handicap in competition versus every day take a putt. Please continue.
We should do a Jiminy Glick thing where you're Jiminy Glick.
I'll tell you a story later in another episode about how I was once on stage with Martin Short because they needed somebody to be his Jiminy Glick foil, and they volunteered.
Oh my God, that must have been amazing.
I was eviscerated, but it was funny. Please
yeah, totally.
Continue.
Yeah. So I show up on Sunday, the leader by 1, and I can barely find the club face on Sunday on the range. It's like, what happened? Did I forget how to do this? And what's the difference? I didn't come in with a strategy or of that I need to do certain things. Nothing. It was just let's show up and get warmed up and just keep playing golf. Well, it was just a different day, and the same thing with the guy Kenny Carpenter who I'm playing with, who is the exact opposite of the other guy. Kenny is a talker, so there's a lot of times on a tee, he'd be chatting and we'd be chatting, and it would be like, okay, we have to stop talking so I can hit a golf ball now.
Yeah.
But so a little bit out of the usual process, if you will. But both of us just struggled all day. It rained all
Well,
day.
yeah, to be fair, describe it was a heinous day. It was raining all day. It was a horrible downpour, and you played nicely. You know, it doesn't matter what the score is, but it was a tough day on the golf course. I mean,
Yeah,
this I was going to say the second round of my Club C, you know, there was 130 guys in a 17 club win. Only 4 guys broke 80. I mean, the numbers are,
Yeah.
you know, the day dictates the score.
Yeah, so it was interesting that I double bogeyed the last 3 holes. It's just like, and I was getting so deflated as it was going on, you know, and anyways, and so, but anyways, so I shoot an 88 in my final round. Kenny shoots 89. I win, and it was
When
like,
did you know? I never asked you this. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. When did you know you won?
when he announced my name.
I mean, when you came in, you didn't know at the scorer's tent. You didn't know.
No, there was about 6 of us huddled under an umbrella on the patio, and the previous guys had gone, and I didn't even want to know what was going on. You know, I was kind of thought, I was feeling like I just blew it. And
I guarantee you the average score that day was 85.
it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyways, they announced my name, and I'm like shocked, but you know, and you and I had a nice chat on the way home from the course, and you know, everyone else was going under the same things as I was, you know, dealing with the conditions, dealing with, you know, trying to win, and just, it's a different thing. And what I would kind of the takeaway from me, and I want to make this kind of a segue into the Ontario Mid-Am, is that it's an accumulation of experiences that helps in competition, because so much happens that we can't even comprehend what's actually happening to us, because so much happens in our subconscious.
Sure.
So what's the difference between, you know, the Saturday first round is like, okay, let's go see what happens. There's a whole new thing. Yeah, I want to play well. But I come to the second round, and there's a part of me that knows, oh, you're the first round leader, and you could win this thing. And despite all my things that I know how to do and breathe and whatnot, you know, I just know from the experience that I'm gripping that club probably a little bit tighter,
For sure.
you know, and my reactions are probably a little bit more
Acute.
volatile.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just interrupt if I can interject.
Sure.
If I was being polite, I say, may I interject? There's a lot of sayings in golf that are cliches, and because they're true. One of them is, if you want to be good at tournaments, if you want to be a tournament player, play more tournaments. You know, the last 2 years are the least number of golf tournaments I've played since we started this podcast. Typically, I play between 15 and 18 tournaments, probably 25 tournament rounds a year. So over time, you sort of have a way of, you understand those feelings, and you don't grip it as tightly. But, you know, I hit it so fat off the first tee of the Canadian Seniors in 2019 that I'm surprised I even hit the ball. I was trembling. So when it comes to the last round of the club championship, I knew, just as we've discussed a little bit, I knew what those feelings feel like, because it's very familiar to me. That was the 4th golf tournament when I got to the Club C's. That was my 4th tournament in 3 weeks. Yeah. So I'd also had some recent, you know, time at sea, as I like to say. And as I told you, I said, you know, after you shot 79 the first round, you know, I just said to you, remember, everyone else is got a similar experience level, and they are going to, you know, they're going to have the same troubles that you are. And I was so excited for you that you prevailed, because whether, it doesn't matter what the number is. Like, I shot 79 in the second round of the club championship. I doubled to 17, but I felt like I shot even par that day, because I was really moving the ball around on that win. I felt pretty good about it. So the number is irrelevant to me. The fact that you prevailed, and even though you doubled 3 holes in a row, which, you know, it's not great, but it wasn't a double, triple to lose it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's segue, because I'm just mindful of, I want to get a little more Akawa stuff in here. So I'd say we're at about an hour. Let's do 15 more minutes. Quickly tell me if you can. Last week, this year I was all set to qualify for all this stuff. When they canceled golf for those 6 or 7 weeks, I decided that I wasn't going to do the Mid-Am because I wanted to be mindful of the time that golf was taking away from my relationship.
You're so mature.
I'm not.
You just
I'm not. I'm not. I'm just pretending to be so that I get laid. So that I get laid once in a while.
okay. See,
Anyway.
now we're getting down to what really goes on in the golfer's
That's
mind.
right. Oh yeah.
Yes. And,
If
and
I-
I'm glad
if
you're
I-
doing it with the anonymity of the internet.
If I don't take my clubs to the cottage, then I might be able to, you know, play a few rounds, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so let's
Yeah.
go to the Mid-Am. Qualifier was where?
Woodington Lakes
Love
Legacy
that golf course. Yep.
And yeah, it was
Love
fun.
it.
It was a great morning. I mean, it was like an hour drive along
Yep.
lovely roads. And
Okay,
all
don't
this
get to the
stuff.
drive. Let's get to the golf. Okay, O'Connor?
Okay, well, it's part of the experience, for gosh darn sakes.
Come on.
But anyways, I was surprised by the lack of nervousness I felt, and I think it has to do with that I've played in more tournaments than I ever have, and that was part of sort of my strategy as a player and a coach to get more
Right, we talked
tournament
about this.
get
To
more
have you
tournament
go-
tournament experience.
And you'd had recent tournament experience. You played a Club C like 2 weeks ago or a week ago.
And I played in a Glencairn Invitational and all
Right.
that stuff. And so, anyways, I'm first off the tee, and they announce your name and all that stuff, and that's kind of fun. And I'm playing with this other fellow, and anyways, he hits a drive over a mound, and we don't know what's over there, so he hits a Provo, and we get over the mound, and it's all like knee-high fescue. And it's like,
I'm sorry, you
uh-oh.
said this was the original course, the legacy course they call it? Or is it the new course there? Because there's 2 18s now.
Well, it's the legacy course, which takes 10 minutes to drive your cart out to.
Okay.
So I have no idea if that's new or old. But
Okay, neither do I.
okay. And anyways, we head out there, and it's taken a while to find this golf ball, and I finally find it, and I think the guy is going to kiss me because he's
Is this a Brokeback Mountain situation? Because I've got some music for that.
No, it's a desperate golfer, just like not wanting to have to drive back and hit 5 off the tee. But you know, there he finds it. What's he do? He gets so he chops it out. And then he's got about 220 to a green over water. Hybrid. Where's it go? So what's he start with? A 9.
Yeah, it's nice. I've seen that. It's not.
And then the next hole, a 7.
Mm.
And he goes, well, we're just out here to have fun now. And lovely man. But I just watched him do this kind of thing all the way through. And I'm just plot my way through. And I ended up shooting an 88, which the score sounds not good, but I hit the ball so well. And my key takeaway is that if you're going to play in tournaments, you need to know the course. And I went in there completely blind.
Yeah.
And I must have had at least 6 greens where I thought I'd hit a perfect shot. You know, just like it was on, you know, I had that figured out, the number, the wind, pow, you know, trajectory, everything. And I'm walking up there, where's the ball, for God's sakes? And, you know, finding it at the back of the green or over here. And it just, so my key takeaway was, it's not about golf ball hitting, like you've said. It's about having a strategy that's also married to knowing the golf course. And so
let me give
that
you
was
some
my
feedback.
key takeaway.
I love what you're saying. I'll give you 3 points. Number one, last fall when we played, you and I played together, or didn't play together. We played in a tournament, same tournament at St. Thomas, which I'm going back to, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
I played with a guy. I told you that story. I've played, you know, pretty high level tournament golf, and I played with a guy in that tournament that shot in the 120s.
Oh, right.
And there's no doubt about it Now, I was 1 over through 7, and he was 30 over through 7. And, you know, I was a bit like, well, this is curious. And this is odd. I've never had this experience, but I'm having it now.
Yeah.
And I can tell you it affected me to a degree. By the time we got to the back 9, and it was a very tough day for both of us, you and I. It was 6 degrees and cold and not good for old guys. So that's number 1. Number 2, I applaud you because the number 88, again, not indicative of how you hit the ball, but hitting the ball nicely under tournament conditions is a good experience. So you know you can do that.
Yeah.
But it has zero to do, as we've said, but it's good. I'm saying that's good feedback. You should remember that. Yes, I have the ability to hit the face of the club a lot of times when I'm nervous. So great. But in the end, it's back to what David was saying. If you're a 16 and you want to be a 12, then there are things you need to do. If you're a good player like you are and you want to be a good tournament player, you need to do what good tournament players do, which is, you know, I played Brantford this year. I hadn't played it in a year, but I got online with my buddy Lou Stagner at Decade, and we plotted out the golf course for me because I'm not as familiar with it. So the day of the tournament, I just went to my book and went, okay, here's the hole. Here's where my aiming. And I plotted my way around, to your point, because I familiarized myself with the course. So those are my takeaways. I think you did great. And I think the more you put yourself in a situation where you're playing unfamiliar courses with not your buddies, because that's another thing people don't consider.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I started playing in 2015, again, 2016, I qualified for the Ontario Mid-Am, and it had been a while. It had been a long time, in fact, 15 years since I'd driven into a golf course. It had banners and roped off areas and pictures of past champions. And not only are they announcing your name on the first tee, there are people watching you. I was freaked out. I shot 92 because it was just too much for me.
Yeah.
And that's the takeaway. I love that you hit. I'm really, really happy. I was going to say proud, but I hate when people do that. I'm happy for you that you had an experience of making good contact in a tournament, because that isn't easy, man.
Yeah,
it was for a lot of people.
Well, thanks. Well, it was interesting. Is like, so I was like 1 under on the par 3s. And, you know, it's like, because in a par 3, the designer is setting, like, it's all in front of you.
You could see where to hit it.
You can see where to hit it. Whereas on a lot of these par 4s, a couple were a little blind, you know, like you got a green up on a hill or anything like that, and so you just can't see down. It's kind of like number 2 Scotch block, a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, and it just makes such a difference. So that idea of really becoming familiar with the golf course. So I just want a key point here. I think, are you saying that it's your sense that with Google Earth and the technologies we've got now, that it may not be the same as playing a practice round, but, well, I don't know.
I would say this. There's a bunch of apps. One of them is called, it's on my phone here. It's called, and I don't pay for it. It's one of these things where you can kind of go and it's called 18 Birdies.
Oh, yeah.
18 Birdies. I think we talked about it on the show. But what they do is you can go and take a tour of the golf course on your phone. So I was playing up with Ken Osborne up at his Vespa Hills, it's called. Mm-hmm. And the night before, I just sat in bed looking at the golf course, just kind of taking a quick tour. Now, I had somebody who knew the course to tell me where to hit it, but I sort of looked around. I went through each hole, and you can do that. My point is, with Google Earth and the Decade, hang on, here we go. With the Decade system of mapping out tee shot strategies and hole strategies. So what we did on that day when I prepared for Brantford is we took screen caps of the drives and the approaches to the hole, and I made notes as to where I was going to aim off the tee for the best dispersion and where I would be coming into from, you know, what kind of angles I was looking for, even though they're not big angles, guys. But just to give me a sense. And so I had those all in my yardage thing, literally the picture of the hole. So that on the second shot, I could go, oh, yeah, this is where that is. And there's a little bit of water there that I could see. And I just confirmed that I need to hit it to the right. It's all about, again, if you want to do better in tournaments, then why not sort of arm yourself the best you can?
Yeah, I know, 100%. Yeah.
So in our last 5 minutes here, unless you have some more to add.
No, but it was a really fun experience.
Yeah.
And what the takeaway from one of the takeaways from me was, the more I play in tournaments, the less nervous I am.
Yeah, I would say, I still have an excitement in me, a nervous excitement. But yes, it's the less you can, the less that shows up as a negative, and the more it shows up as, because we've talked about this, nerves. If you interpret nerves, they're the same things that happened in your body when you're excited. Your stomach's a little bit jumpy, and
well, I'm going to clarify that a little bit. I think what happened for me is that I'm less concerned that I'm going to post this big number and I'm going to feel embarrassed and stuff. I could give a flying fadoo. And that I've really, I've just let go of that stuff, but yeah, which is a different deal than being in the lead of your senior club C on the second day. I wasn't feeling necessarily nervous, but there was a tightness that I felt. Yeah. And so the more I play in that, my sense is I'll be able to deal a little bit more effectively with that tightness.
Absolutely. And again, this year on the final day when I was warming up and I looked at, I could hear people talking, and I was just looking around going, I just know that I may not be hitting it perfectly, but I know that my brain, my ability to think around a golf course is pretty good. And I was confident in that. And so I'm never 100. Listen, I don't want to lie. I'm going out to play golf today. And I don't know how I'm going to hit it, but I do know how I'm going to think my way around the course, and that's more reliable. I just want to read you this quote. So I saw this I follow this guy on Instagram, and I screen capped his Morikawa quote. And on Sunday, when Morikawa was winning the Open, I posted this, and I'm only pointing this out that it resonated with a lot of people in the golf nerdiverse because it got 300 likes. 27 retweets. And because it's to people that follow the game like you and I, it really is sort of the essence of Decade. And that's what I said. I said, I'm going to read you what I wrote, and then I'll read you the quote. I said, it's all here. This is what Decade is talking about. Make better decisions, manage your expectations, and wait for lower scores to happen. And here's what I said that and quoted Morikawa. Morikawa says, you'd be surprised just how many bogeys are made from a flawed thought process. Try taking an honest look at your rounds and ask yourself, were my mistakes the result of poor execution or bad decisions? You can live with bad swings because that happens in golf, but you're in total control of decision making, and it's such an easy thing to improve.
Wow.
You're in total control, he says. And I only disagree with this. It is an easy thing to do, but a hard thing to continue to do. It's easy to make the decision today that when you play this weekend, you're going to try and, think your way better. But as soon as and you said it earlier in the show, as soon as something happens that tweaks your temperament a little bit, it's then do you make the right decision. That's the hard part. That's the D for discipline.
Well, where I was going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in here.
Please, jumping.
Because I think that what happens for a lot of people, it's they're standing in the rough, they're trying to make a decision, and they start to think, I'm taking forever here. These guys are going to think I'm too serious. What's this, the fucking US Open or something?
Yeah, man.
As opposed to just, okay, look, or maybe I'm a bit feeling scrambled or flustered, and I got to take a moment to ground myself and start to think, oh, the group behind me is standing there with their arms folded, and what are these? And that, to me, it not only it makes us play worse, but it makes us play slower because now we got to go and find the squirrely shot we hit because we weren't grounded. So the thing that I think it happens to professionals as well, is that they're thinking about what other people might be thinking about them. And that's just one part of that makes decision making a little bit harder is this concern about how am I being perceived, how am I being judged, and all that stuff. And I think a great example of someone who fought through that was Spieth. What was that, 4 years ago, when he hit it like off the planet and spent something like 17 minutes figuring it out?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he
that is
took
the,
his
you're so right. That is the best example ever of when it's your turn, take your turn.
yeah, and like he just playing with the rules, and it wasn't, yeah, there's some people said it was selfish. No, guy's in contention to win an Open Championship. He's going to do what he needs to do until he felt he had the information he needed, all that stuff, and he just took his time, and it paid off, obviously.
And by the way, not to give this an even more of a, whatever, but Colin Morikawa, guess what he took? Guess what seminar he took?
The GSL Pathways to Par.
No, smart guy. He took the decade seminar when he was in university. And this is why he says, were my mistakes the result of poor execution or bad decisions? And I would just finish by saying, my brother is, he really loves the game of golf. And I think, whenever we play, I try and, talk to him the way you and I would speak, that about like, I quoted Fred Shoemaker. I remember talking to Fred about this in one of our little private chats, but I've talked about it. There's nothing wrong with going to the driving range, putting your headphones on and just enjoying the activity of hitting a golf ball. It's just beautiful.
Totally.
It's fantastic. And I love it. I don't do it enough as I used to do, but I still enjoy that. Just going and hitting golf balls. I do it almost every day, I guess, with Stan. I hit pitch shots and he's chasing the stick, and it's nothing really. I'm not working on anything, but I guess inadvertently it helps my short game. But if you are committed to being a little bit better than you were yesterday, then it's okay to warm up a little bit. It's okay to, work on your short game. It's okay and to take, if you're not sure what shot to hit. I mean, I got an email here from a Swing Thought nerd, a golf geek like us. He just said, Howard, you made the point on a recent episode about backing off a shot. He said, I think you said you actually practice backing off shots. I've never heard of that before. And why I recommend that to people is so that, just do it every once in a while so you become comfortable with that little feeling of what you just described beautifully, that self-conscious feeling. Because I guarantee you, when Jordan Spieth was going through that in 2017, he was like, fuck y'all. I'm going to make sure I'm ready before I hit this shot. Because as you pointed out, I could win the Open.
Yeah, I'm not going to, I'm going to just counter you a little bit. I don't think he was saying, fuck you.
No,
I think it was more of a, I'm going to just I just got to take care of business. And I'm not doing this until I'm ready.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't meaning that literally.
As being, yeah, well,
okay.
exactly.
Even more like making a stand for his own. The point I'm trying to make is that make a stand for your own game, not anyone else's game. Make a stand for what you have decided is important to you in golf. Because I'll tell you what, and I'm a broken record. If you want to shoot lower scores, there's a discipline to it. It's not.
100%.
And Morikawa said, it's an easy, as he says it, it's such an easy thing to improve, but it's a hard thing to stick to.
Yeah, so interesting that just relatively quickly, I did a playing lesson with a client last night. The guy's a 2 handicap. He bad drive, pitches out, front pin, and we're talking about club selection. And it's number 7 at Blue Springs. Bunkered both sides.
Water in front of the green.
Yeah, water left, gunk there. And we just said, I said, it'd be lovely to make par here, but ideally you want to walk away here from a soft bogey at worst.
That's right.
So initially he had a club that was going to be right at the flag, and then I went, middle of the green's not bad. Middle of the green's not bad. Now he ended up not hitting the club that well, but it was like about a foot short, and he chipped up, and actually he made par. But it was just that. It's just
chipped in?
No, he chipped up to like just like to tap in.
Right. So he made bogey.
Yeah,
because he chipped out and then onto the green. I just want to
that's
make
right.
sure I'm
So he made a
following you.
bogey, and so, anyways, the point is that strategy of in that decision making process, it can sometimes be slow in what you need to do, and like, oh, could do this because he wants to make par. And I said, well, if you're going for par here, you bring double into the equation. If you're trying to be ultra precise,
because if it's a if you short side yourself now on your third shot, now you're chipping onto the green. You may not get up and down for bogey, but the phrase I always use is it's bogey with an option for par.
Yeah.
And the fact is, at the 2 handicap level, you're really trying to not make a lot of doubles. I just did my my stats yesterday, and one of my best stats so far this year, beside my short game getting better, is that my double bogeys per round is now less than a half I'm 0.40, so I don't make a lot of double bogeys anymore. Because that was the only thing kind of holding me back from getting it down to 0 was that I'd have a round with 14 pars, a couple birdies, and a double or two. But you're absolutely right. Like that. That's why Morikawa says it's an easy thing to improve. But in that situation, whether you're a 2 or a 16, the next decision you make is like all the decisions you make for the rest of the round. And I would say by finishing that is the hardest lesson to learn. That on this hole, sure, as you say, it would be great to get 4, but it's just you want to be tapping in for a 5 because that keeps you going. You don't want to make another mistake and, now I got to get it up and down for bogey and Again, it's like the 7 iron versus the 8 iron. You want to keep your internal thermostat fairly neutral.
100%.
Because what that also does, it does 2 quick things. It keeps your swing kind of going, you're less tense, but it also keeps your brain a little bit more free, right?
Yep.
Anyway, what do we know? All I know is that this is my favorite show of the week.
Excuse me.
I always say, well, we'll be finished soon, but who cares how long we do? It's only you and me anyway.
Interesting. Just on Morikawa and TaylorMade. Pretty interesting. Him switching out clubs from the Scottish Open.
Yeah, 7, 8, 9. I think he switched.
Yeah, he had the TaylorMade P730. Yeah, 7 through 9, and he switched to the P7. And he just said that the P7, it was just better what he called turf interaction on links fairways. Oh. So that's pretty cool. That the guy changed his equipment and ended up winning. And then also, as Zinger was saying, so cool that earlier in the season, struggling with his putting, O'Meara teaches him the claw grip and he ends up winning. The quick thing, it was funny.
We keep saying a quick thing, and now we're into hour 7 of the marathon.
Yeah. Well, Zinger, you know what? I think that the bloom's gone off the rose of Zinger as an analyst. He's saying like he's
never a big fan.
He can be so repetitive, but so Oosthuizen, he's teeing off. I think in the 4th round, he says, "Well, at 38, this might be his last chance." Oh my, really? Talk about an overstatement. I know these guys got a lot of time to fill, and maybe I'm trying to, but I just think that maybe that's my point, is that Zinger is prone to the overstatement, and he just hasn't learned that subtlety of like a guy like Peter Allis or something, And so, anyways, I don't know why I went down that road, but I did. Perhaps I'm judging someone.
Okay. Well, you work that out on your own time. Anyway, Morikawa is going to win. He's won same number of majors now as Dustin Johnson. He's won 2 of his first 10. He's won. He's at a 10% win rate. I'm not ready to say he's Tiger Redux, but I will say that he has the kind of golf swing, and more importantly, the kind of golf game to win a lot more. And it just goes to show you. And by the way, another thing I think we should all give ourselves a break on, which is, when we have good putting rounds and when we have bad putting rounds. And maybe we should do an entire show on putting one day. Because I think what I've also come to realize that I sometimes judge my putting in a different light than I do my ball striking and my other parts of my game. And I realized that Morikawa, whose putting is statistically the worst part of his game, like a lot of good players and most golfers, there are days when the ball just seems to find the hole.
Yep.
The same way, but we judge it differently than, if you hit a sort of a quick hook and it happens to hit a tree and not go out of bounds and stay in bounds, that's like a ball that lips in instead of lipping out, but we see it differently. And so I can tell you from looking at my statistics that, yeah, I certainly would like to improve my average putting, but it's pretty good. But on days when it's very good, I shoot lower scores. Duh. On days when it's not, I don't. But I judge it differently. And so Morikawa went to that saw grip, and his putting's improved, but not overall, by the way. I mean, overall, yes, I'm sorry. But it's nowhere near as good as it was this past weekend.
Yeah.
Because here's what I want to finally say, just like everybody else, some days it feels good, some days it doesn't. It doesn't mean all of a sudden, like on the second day of your Club C, it didn't feel the same. So what?
Yeah.
Anyway, congratulations. I want to say that on not only your win, but also I want to stress this. It's hard to hit the ball well under pressure. And so take that with you, because that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. JWApparelinc.com. That's all the clothing here for the Swing Thought guys. O'ConnorGolf.ca, of course. HumbleandFredRadio.com. Pathways to Par. I'm going to do it. I swear to God I am. That's going to be my seminar. You can come. You can come too. As well, TaylorMade Golf. I was so excited that Morikawa full TaylorMade threw the bag. That was cool. TaylorMadeGolf.ca. Learn more about all the new sim stuff. I know a lot of the golf companies now the retail places they're starting to clear out some summer stuff. So if you've been waiting, now's a great time to buy TaylorMade. You could probably get some good deals. You're going to be away. I know you got a cold. You sounded great today, by the way.
No,
very
thank
deep,
you.
Very ballsy. You're going to a cottage. Where are you going?
We're going to Doe Lake, just about a half hour north of Huntsville.
Nice.
Yeah, no, we haven't done the cottage thing for about 10 years, and I haven't fished for about 10 years, so I'm really looking forward to doing that thing.
Yeah, will you be taking your clubs with you?
Yes.
All right. Until next time, everyone. Thanks for joining us.